Alright, so today's video is going to be on using different formulas. Some of these you should already know, but we'll review them quick. Before we actually get to the formulas, a couple of definitions, perimeter and area. I think you probably already know these, so if you do, take a guess. Right now you pause the video, write down or think what you think perimeter is, what you think area is, and go ahead and start it back up, and I'll give you the actual definition. Okay, so perimeter is going to be the distance around a shape. Okay, and it's important to remember that it is a distance. Okay, it's not an area; it's a distance around. So the easiest way to find the perimeter of any shape is just to add up all of its sides. Okay, because certain shapes have certain properties, we can get formulas to find their perimeter rather than just adding up all their sides every time. We're going to talk about that in 1 second. The area, the definition of that is the space inside of a two-dimensional shape. Okay, it changes once you start talking about like three-dimensional and stuff, but it's the space inside of a two-dimensional shape. So those are the two definitions that we needed. And now we're going to get a couple of formulas. We're going to have formulas for perimeter and for area of rectangles and squares. So for a perimeter, you can see that what I'm going to do is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Okay, reason being, if I look at this side up here and this side down here are going to be the same. So I have 2 of those, which we'll call the length. And then the right and the left are also going to be the same. So I have 2 of those, which we call the width. So 2 lengths and 2 widths, add them all up, and that's how you get perimeter. Then area, to find the space inside of this is very easy, and we'll go over this later in the year again, but you just have to multiply the length and the width together. So if I wanted to find the perimeter of this rectangle, I would start by writing down my formula. So 2L plus 2W. And then I'm just going to plug in what I have. So I know the L is 12 on this. So I'm going to do 2 times 12 plus 2 times the width, which is 6. And so that gives me 24 for 2 times 12 plus 12 for 2 times 6, which is 36. And this is just the length, so it's just 36 inches. Okay? Now, the area, same thing. I'm always going to start with these problems by writing down the formula. So I write down areas, length times width, and then just plug those in. So it's a very simple problem, just 12 times 6. And I know that 12 times 6 is 72. Now, with area, you have to be careful. The units get squared on this. So it's going to be 72 inches squared is the way we write it. We actually read it as 72 square inches. Just one of those goofy things where it's written one way, but it's actually read slightly different. But it is important to remember that in all areas, anytime you're finding an area, you're going to do the units get squared. Okay? So now let's look at the square down here. We see that the side is 5. Now, if I want to find perimeter of a square, I would add up the 4 sides. Well, they're all the same. So the shortcut there is just multiply by 4. 4 times whatever the side is. So in this case, I'd write perimeter is 4 times S. And then I'm going to plug in my 5 for the S. I have 4 times 5, which of course is just 20. And again, this is just the length, so this is 20 centimeters. Okay? And if I wanted to do the area, I can look up and see that my area formula, it says take whatever the side is and square it. So in other words, do side times side. So in this case, I write my formula, side squared, and the side is 5. So I have 5 squared, which is 25. And again, I gotta remember it's an area, so I'm going to square my unit, so it's going to be 25 centimeters squared, or square centimeters, how we actually read it. So that's how I use those formulas. Perimeter and area. Remember, always write the formula first, plug in what you have, get your answer. Okay? Now, there's another formula, there's actually three that all work together. They're distance, rate, and time problems. Distance, rate, and time are always related to each other. You can see if I want to find the distance, all I have to do is multiply the rate I'm traveling by the amount of time I travel. That'll give me my distance. If I want to know the rate I'm traveling, I'm going to take my distance that I have gone and divide it by how long I've been going. So distance divided by time. And if I want the time, I'm going to do distance divided by rate. So I actually have a little picture I can use for this. It's a triangle, and I cut up the triangle like this. That's not what I wanted to do. Let's get rid of that. Okay. I'm going to have a triangle. And in the top of the triangle, I'm going to put my D for distance. Down on the bottom, you see I split up the bottom, and I put R in one box and T in the other. So if I want to find distance, it's rate times time. If I want to find rate, it's distance over time, or distance divided by time. If I wanted to do time, I would do distance over rate, or distance divided by rate. So I have all three of these formulas in this one little picture right here, which is kind of a nice, easy way to remember it. So here's a couple example problems for that. If I'm missing the distance, I have rate and time. I'm going to use my first formula here. And so I'm going to do D equals RT. And I'm just going to plug in 55 times 6. And I know that 55 times 6 is 330. Now I got to figure out what units I have. Well, I was going in feet per hour for a number of hours, so that should tell me how many feet I have gone. So that would be 330 feet. Now the second one, I have the distance, and I have the rate. I'm missing the time, so if I were to cover up the time, I have distance over rate. And that's that third formula. So I'll use that one. Time equals distance over rate. And the distance was 54. And the rate is 18. So I'm going to divide those. Go ahead and divide. And if you did that correctly, you should get exactly 3. And let's see, it was 54 miles and 18 miles per minute, and I'm trying to find the time, so that's got to be in minutes. So it is important on these ones to always go back, make sure you're including your units on these when you do these distance, rate, time problems.